am joined by Chief People Officer of Tech Mahindra, Mr. Richard Lobo. Welcome to show, sir. We are
Thank
going
you.
to discuss about your new book, Human at Work. So, sir, first of all, just wanted to understand how the job market is these days, and are really robots applying for a job, as it is first chapter of your book. So, what's the current scenario, and how much there is a threat to human jobs?
So, Saurabh, first of all, thank you for inviting me to the show. And the job market, since you asked the question, is like a glass. We can look at it whether it is half full or half empty. On one hand, most companies and most leaders will tell you that there is a shortage of people and to do specific jobs where skills, innovation, new technologies are in short supply. On the other hand, you will read all about people finishing their studies and not finding the right jobs and doing jobs which are below what they have studied. So, in today's context, I think there is always demand for human skills, technology skills, and areas which are new and innovative. At the same time, many jobs could potentially be replaced by technology, and we are seeing it. And I don't think this is anything new. History is full of examples where humans have created machines to make their life easier. And when humans invent machines, whether it was the cotton gin or it was the tractor or anything, history is full of examples. Some jobs do go away. And what we are seeing today is no different from what human history has seen in the past. That with the advancement of AI, with the advancement of technology, with new robots coming in, certain jobs which till today were done by humans will be replaced by better jobs. So, what I talk about in the book is primarily some jobs will be replaced with better jobs. There is not, I'm not saying jobs will go away in the sense that people will not have things to do. People will have better things to do, provided they are willing to change, provided they are willing to adapt, provided they are willing to skill themselves to be ready for the next future. So, one of the examples I give in the book is how the banking industry changed, where most of us had to go to the bank and stand in queues, and it was a very bad experience. And today, first of all, we don't use cash anymore. Secondly, if you talk to today's generation as to what a bank counter was, most of them would not even recognize it. But the banking jobs have not gone away. There are better jobs which have come. Bankers do better things. There is more, India does more financial transaction than it ever did in the past. So in the sense, if I was a banker, I would be happy as long as I kept myself upskilled, as long as I kept myself updated to what is happening. I would have a better job to do than what I was doing maybe 20 years ago. So that is the whole theory. While I continue to stress the fact that it is up to us to skill ourselves, up to us to keep ourselves relevant. There could be some short-term losses which do happen when tides of history change. So I'm not denying that. But on an overall basis, there will be better jobs, there will be more jobs, and more creative and innovative things for humans to do.
So, as you emphasized about the skilling yourself, so how do you think that the people can skill themselves while doing the job? And do you still think that the today's word skill set is still relevant for the longer time? Because whenever we are going to acquire some new set of skills, in every few years it keeps changing.
I think it is our role to keep ourselves relevant, right? Now, let's take for example, if you are a doctor and you would have studied medicine by learning to do most of the surgery using your hands. But today, the same doctor does surgery by using robots, by using tools. Similarly, if you are a journalist, you would be producing a story by using all your creative energy and spending long hours typing out your story. But today, you use all technology available to probably your research gets done faster. You can produce your news media much faster than it was before. But provided you have kept yourself relevant. Now, if you say that I don't want to figure out how this new technology works, then you can't really say that technology has replaced me. It is you who has replaced yourself. So I think many times we forget that it is our responsibility to keep ourselves learning. And I call this the concept of lifelong learning. Many of us think that once we finish our graduation or a degree or studies, we think it is done. And it's not easy because we are all busy, right? We spend long hours at work. There is family pressures. There are other things to do. But sometimes I think you have to force yourselves to go back to school. I didn't mean in the sense that you go and sit on the bench, but I think you have to take some part of your work week or a work month to study. It is not easy. You have to force yourself, and I think irrespective of which profession you are, whether you're in HR, whether you're in medicine, whether you're in IT, whether you're in journalism, if you do not spend some time on this concept of lifelong learning, I think somebody else will come and replace you very quickly, because the concept which is changing very quickly is that experience is not what is in demand. Skill is in what is in demand. And I think that is the concept you have to look at. Change from, okay, I've spent 20 years, so my experience is very relevant. It is a question of what is your skill, which is relevant, and not what is your experience anymore. And I think in that sense, the concept has changed. And that's what I wanted to stress upon in this book.
In today's world, there is a lot of distractions. So, how you advise people to avoid distractions and the focus on their skills?
I think creative destruction is part of human endeavor. And I think many times we have to use destruction in a way that helps us create new things. So whether I was going to construct a beautiful new office complex, there will be some destruction in the sense we might do away with the old. Some of it we might preserve for heritage, but some of it which we will do away. Similarly, if companies were used to doing a certain kind of product or a machine or an automobile, there is always pressure to give up the old and take in the new. Now, this is contrary to what we are used to as human beings, because we do not like that much of change. But technology doesn't recognize the balance, right? So it's a question of how much you can balance on the human needs to preserve what they're familiar with what is changing in the world, where technology and business model force you to do new things. Now, if again, to put it in a very simple concept, I could be running a shop in any of the cities in this country and say, okay, I will only accept cash. And if you have the next person who is all into digital payments and happily accepting it, where do you think the customers would go? So sometimes I think we get it very quickly when there is a commercial issue, but when there is no commercial issue, we try and resist change and talk about, okay, how things were and how we do not want to change. So I think creative destruction is good. Destruction for the sake of destruction is, of course, not that relevant, and we have to be careful of that.
Okay. So, as you have more than 2 decades of work experience and the shaping the company, so I would like to understand from you that what kind of challenges have you and your companies faced during the technological transitions and all? And was there any kind of resistance to the people while this transfer happened? And down the line, if you talk about the next 1 or 2 decades, what kind of challenges do you see for the next decade?
This is an interesting question, and let's look at three challenges or three critical areas which will probably hold for the next couple of decades. The first is this concept of collaboration. So, we have been used to a model of working where whatever was invented in one company or in one institution stayed on within that. But today, I think the world requires us to collaborate, and we can produce better by collaborating. So you see a lot of tie-ups happening with companies who would normally in the past compete, but today they collaborate. Like, I don't want to name the cars, but if you see the auto industry, you will find that there are some models of the car which this company is selling, which is produced by their competition. Similarly, there could be other areas or other products which are produced by somebody, sold by somebody, or invented in another part of the world. Many times we have guarded our borders, we have prevented people from flowing freely across the world. But I think the future which help us to do better is if we collaborate with each other, if we use all the benefits of human intelligence and human intellect across the world to do things. I think that's the first challenge. The second, I think, is what I term as human-centered leadership. Many times, I think people need to be treated as humans, and sometimes we forget that. We see them as machines, we see them as employee numbers, we see them as just part of the large workforce. And especially if you are in a very large company, sometimes it's easy to get lost. But I think people want that human-centered relationship. When people recognize them by name, they know their families, they welcome them into the workplace, they listen to their issues, they communicate better. So I call all this as human-centered leadership. And I think human-centered leadership is going to be more and more important. And people will like to work for any workplace which has human-centered leadership. And I think they will value this more than compensation or any other benefits which companies might give. And the third one, I think, is we are just beginning to see the advantage data and analytics can do. Today, there is so much data about ourselves, about our friends, about our relatives and colleagues, which is available. And companies can use it intelligently. Of course, I'm not saying that there should not be safeguards to data. It's not like everybody should see everything. But if you use data intelligently, and some companies have figured this, you can give people a much better experience. And I'm specifically thinking, I think we can give better experience to people at work by using data and analytics intelligently. So these are these three, both challenges and opportunities. If we use them well, I think we can make our workplaces much better. If you, of course, don't use them well, we'll always have somebody else who will figure this out and use them to their advantage.
In post-COVID era, we have seen a lot of changes in work culture. Someone is working in the US, came to India and working from home a long time. So how do you see this trend will continuing in next 1 or 2 decades? Will this continue or there will be a shift from here?
Again, an interesting question before us. I think COVID gave us an opportunity to rethink how we work. For a long time, we got used to a particular model of working, and it started somewhere during the industrial age where people needed to go to a factory because the machinery was expensive and you could only find it in the factory. So that was the time when people started going to a place of work. Before that, everybody used to work in their own house and produce. So you could be a tailor or you could be a blacksmith, but you largely worked closer to your place of residence. So the industrial age caused all of us to go to a place of work. And when offices happened, much of this continued. We still went to a place of work and we did our work and we came back in the evening. And if nothing had happened, we would have continued this model for many more years. Now, COVID was something none of us foresaw. It happened. And suddenly we found that we could all continue functioning without necessarily needing to go to a particular place of work. Now, whether this can happen 100% of the time, I don't think so. And I think there is enough evidence to show that we are human beings. We need to interact with each other. We need to learn from each other. We need to innovate using each other's intelligence. So we cannot 100% not see each other. So this model of 100%, which we had during COVID, is not going to work. I also don't see why we should have 100% back to office. So somewhere there are areas of our work which we can do by ourselves without needing to be anywhere or needing to go to a place of work. There are areas where we need to collaborate. And if you look at any of our major cities, I think it's good for the city also. If you look at the traffic situation, any of the large city in India, and all of us don't want to go through that pain for no reason, right? So if I have to go to a place of work, I really need a very strong reason why I should do it. I think this learning from COVID, I really hope that all of us keep it and not lose the ability to be flexible, to produce our best effort by balancing our work, whether we do it remotely or whether we do it along with colleagues. And there will be models where you can measure productivity. Today, one of the questions which you have is how do we measure productivity? How do we measure output? But all this will evolve. I think we have to give it time because finally, we have just few years after COVID, right? It's not like we have spent, it's been too many years since COVID happened. So I think there's a lot of potential to use a hybrid model. And I really hope that as humans, we will figure this out and it will do good for all of us.
So one last question I want to understand from you that as government has also focused on the job-oriented market and they have infused a lot of things in the internship models and all. So in which particular sectors do you see jobs coming from in coming years, and which sectors could lose jobs?
It's difficult for me to predict a sector-wise, but let us look at this way. So there are the first set of jobs is companies which produce things we consume as humans, and those are jobs which, whether we are producing atta or whether we are producing any other form of human consumption, those are jobs which always will be there no matter what happens. Second are jobs related to technology, understanding technology and using it in day-to-day human endeavor. I think that's the second set of jobs. The third set of jobs, I think we do not see enough being talked about, is the jobs which preserve our planet. And I think more than important, jobs related to sustainability, how to use better products so that we can enjoy Earth for much longer than today's situation holds. I think that's the third set of jobs. But history has said the person who predicts job is always in a dangerous position. So you can never predict which job will be there for the long term. If any of us had answers, then we would have all gone and chosen that particular career. So my message is that no matter what you're doing, as long as you are updated, as long as you're relevant, as long as you keep in touch with the changing consumer preferences as well as technology changes, you will always have a job. I don't think that is the worry. The real challenge for us is that how do we make this a creative endeavor where all of us benefit? It's not, the job should not benefit only few, that we take more people along. We don't have situations where some people are employed with very high paying jobs, others are not. So it's a question of a larger purpose where we learn that what we are doing is useful for others and we get more people to join us in this endeavor. I think that is the real success story.
So with this, we came to an end of the show, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time for ETV Bharat. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on the show.